you're a fan of the show NCIS or love a good cold case podcast, if that is your thing, you're going to want to hear from our next guest.
Yeah, he's worked cold cases for nearly 30 years and literally wrote the book on cold case procedures. And he's coming to Miller Auditorium in Kalamazoo soon, but first, he joins us via Zoom this morning to talk more about it. His name's Joe Kennedy, and he's on the Morning Mix. Good morning, Joe.
Good morning, Todd, Michelle.
Thanks for being here. Let's talk a little bit about your methodology. I mean, you wrote the book, right, on cold cases, and people love cold cases. What did you bring to the table? I mean, you really kind of are like a godfather of the industry.
Well, you know, once upon a time, Todd, I was that young, striving investigator to get better, and I hooked up with some old guys like me today in terms of Dave Rivers down at Metro-Dade, Miami, or Tim Murray up at the Boston Police Department. And this was in the mid-'90s. I said, hey, how do you do this? Because we had started our cold case squad. So I essentially took, what these old-timers had been doing for years in the cold case arena and tried to put a little bit of a different twist on it, because the first part of my law enforcement career was doing undercover narcotics purchases, buying stolen guns, these types of things. So I just tried to force that or factor that into how you would work a murder, basically from a clandestine or an undercover perspective.
All right, so let's talk about how you turn your life's work into a live show. What will people experience?
So what we're hoping to do, Michelle, is just demonstrate how do you solve a cold case. A lot of folks, I think, will be intrigued of how difficult it is to solve a cold case, but we go through the mechanics of homicide investigation so that they get a feel for it.
I don't know what he's talking about. It taking a long time. It happens under an hour every night on the TV. It's just like
the magic of television.
It's just like that. When you're bringing cases, I mean, you obviously have heard hundreds, seen thousands of cases. Are there any that stand out intriguing? Maybe in West Michigan, is there anything that's local to our area?
Well, what we're going to do is we have partnered with Dr. Ashlyn Kirsten there at Western Michigan. She's doing a fantastic job with the Michigan State Police and her cold case program. So we're going to be meeting with her and her students to hear what they may have to say. If we may look at a case, we have an idea, maybe an overlooked clue or something like that.
And there's going to be some audience involvement as well. Talk about how you engage them.
Yeah, Michelle, so the first part of the show, we'll walk them through some cases that have been successfully solved, how we did it. Then we'll talk about some nationally known unsolved cases, i.e. John Benet Ramsey, the Zodiac case. And then the second part is where it's a question and answer of anything that might be on their minds that they want to know about cold case. We'll take them through a question and answer. And that tends to be the liveliest part of the show, or the best part of the show, in my opinion.
Oh, I can only imagine.
Right?
Because, I mean, I've got like 50 more questions. We have limited time when it comes to what you do for a living. I mean, I want to talk to you buying undercover drugs, for crying out loud. What a life. So have you ever, at one of these shows, this is a long shot, but have you ever solved the case during one of these live shows? Have you ever come across something that like, that was it?
So Todd, here's the thing. When we get to Kalamazoo, it will be our 14th show, I think. We've done 11 up to now. And we have about 10 or 15 after Kalamazoo. We've not solved a case yet, but we are definitely getting some viable clues and investigative leads that have come about because of engaging the public. And that's what this is all about, because with all murder cases, somebody knows, right? That bystander was reluctant to come forward 10, 15, 20 years ago. Now, if approached correctly, we may be able to get them to tell us what they know about that murder.
Oh my gosh, I love that so much. and let's briefly talk too. I mean, you've seen a lot of things over the course of your career. Technology has changed a lot. Talk about how that helps play a role in solving some of these.
So, Michelle, that is the game changer. It is forensic investigative genetic genealogy. We're building those family trees, right? The maternal, the paternal bloodlines, coming up with a surname. A lot of folks are familiar with, 23andMe, Ancestry.com. So really, when you think about it, that's not law enforcement. Us in law enforcement are dependent on those civilians or the citizenry, that like a genealogist or a forensic genealogist to give us investigative leads that we pursue and then hopefully get it to the right offender or the person responsible for the murder.
Well, I'm pretty hesitant to ask this, but what about artificial intelligence? Is this being used?
Todd, this is the flavor of the day. You know, this week, the International Association of Chiefs of Police is meeting in Boston. It's their annual conference. And I can tell you that I have fielded several calls between Sunday night and today about, hey, Joe, when are y'all going to start using AI on your cold cases? And I'll tell you, we're in consultation with a couple of different groups to do exactly that, right? And what we mean is some machine learning, some generative AI, to where it will help some of these detectives. Because today, if you think about just the monumental task of sifting through all the electronic data, whether it's text messaging or photographs on a phone or video cameras or surveillance cameras from a Ring doorbell, these things take so much time, and that's where AI will be able to help us, is to help narrow down and get to the correct suspect or the correct vehicle or whatever it is we may be looking for.
But in the end, it really has to be the people who have to come forward, who have the knowledge, I think, a lot of times, right, to help you guys solve these cases. And in this case, it could be somebody in West Michigan.
And my favorite part, Joe, of the show is always knowing that somebody who had been waiting for an answer for decades finally got some closure. That's got to feel good.
Yeah, Todd, and we have to be careful with that word closure. You know, we give them resolution.
Okay.
Right? The family gets resolution. And one of the tough things is, can a family truly get closure because that person's not coming back? But I know exactly what you're meaning here. And you're absolutely right. To me, life is so precious. Can we maybe figure out who did this to that person's loved one? Because I don't think anybody should be able to take another person's life because of just how precious life is.
Absolutely.
Man, I want to go to this show. Let's get people to this show.
Right?
Like I said, we could talk to you probably the entire show. Cold Case Live with Joe Kennedy. I want to be at that Q&A station. That's happening October 29th, 7:30, Miller Auditorium. If you don't have tickets, boy, you better get them. MillerAuditorium.com, the place to go. We'll be right back.